there's one thing that has the ability to take us further, push us harder, make us into the best version of ourselves, it has to be our motivation. So what is your motivation? Something that's been on my mind a lot lately is this concept of motivation and what we use to motivate ourselves, and sometimes whether or not that motivation is internal or external. These are important things to consider because not everybody's motivated the same way. I personally am a very internally motivated person. The concept of the external, it's less relevant. I won't say that it's not relevant. It certainly has an impact, and I'll talk about that later. But my drive to go forward for all of these years, for my martial arts training, my work, this YouTube channel, everything, it's all been internally motivated, driven by the things that I want to do, the things that I want to succeed with. But not everybody is built that way, and sometimes we need help. So let's talk about external motivation. External motivation is when we have something else outside of ourselves that drives us to do better. Very often in the martial arts, you see things like competition is a good one. And I just got a text yesterday letting me know how a jiu-jitsu competition went for one of our guys, and it went amazing. While that's really exciting, it is not surprising because I have watched on the mat as he has continued to get better. As we've added competition to what he's doing, as he's decided to do that, and we've added some focus, he competed, he got a good example of what he needed to work on to be better at competition, then he's been able to put more focus on the things that he specifically wants to get better at. And I have been able to be more guided and directed in how to make him better at those things and what sort of things we can do to emphasize that growth. This is a great example of an external motivation, wanting to go compete and to be able to do well. That is something that is external to you that really drives your training and can really push you to do better. It's not the only way, though. There are other external motivations, something as simple as grading. So I talked about how I'm mostly internally motivated, but I noticed recently when I went for my blue belt in jiu-jitsu that even though I was heavily motivated myself to become better at jiu-jitsu for myself and for the people that choose to train jiu-jitsu with me, when it was time to get ready to do a demonstration for the Roy Dean Academy for that promotion, that really drove me to push harder, more frequently, to step outside of the box and really let me dial in on the things that I needed to work on. What it did first is it highlighted the things that I needed to work on. It allowed me to prepare this demonstration, determine what needed to be done, and then during that, determine what I was pretty good at, what I was very good at, and what I really needed to work on. Newsflash, anytime you go to do something like that, if you're like me and you've got the intent to do the best that you can, then you end up in these situations where nothing is good enough and you can always improve everything, which is great, which is fine. Improve everything if you can. That's what I like to do. So everything needed improvement, but it was obvious that there were certain things that needed more improvement than others, and some things that I just plain felt like I couldn't do. I got it theoretically in my head, but I just couldn't make my body do it that way. So I needed to put emphasis into doing it. So sometimes grading is a really good example of a way to get an external motivation. You want to go for that next rank, that next belt, that next whatever it is. It puts you in a place where you have to do it. You've got to improve in order to hit that goal. That's something that we've started doing more recently, and I'll talk about this more in a video that I want to put together on how jiu-jitsu has inspired and influenced my other practices. But we have recently taken and added in a demonstration of skill for the green belt and brown belt levels. There was a video recently about adding back some colored belts and how that is kind of shaped up. And that includes having a demonstration. So now I've got people who are ready to test for that next rank. And as part of that test, they're also going to perform a demonstration of their skill, something to celebrate who they are and what they're capable of. So they're paired up, they've got partners that are working, and they're working on putting this demonstration together. Well, the thing that's great about that is when you want to show who you are, and what you can do and celebrate what you're capable of and the distance that you have journeyed to get where you are, you're motivated. I see it on the mat. I see people, there's literally someone in the dojo right now, dojo's closed, they're in there with their partner, they're putting the work in because it is how they're going to go further. So this was abnormal for this person. They're not always in there, but now they're in. They're in every weekend. They're staying in after class. They're putting in extra work to become better, to really highlight and show what they can do. And these are the kind of external motivations that can really take you far. So we talked about external motivations. We talk about internal motivations. I think internal motivations, like I said, is something that is very strong to me, but not everybody's wired for it because you have to have a lot of self-discipline to define your own goals and then push yourself to hit them. And realistically, when we're talking motivation, internal or external, what we're really talking about is having goals, defining what they are, and pushing for them. Having a plan, building a plan, and driving for it. This guy who's out competing this last weekend, the one who just did the jiu-jitsu tournament, he came to me with a plan. He had drawn out exactly, here's what I think I need to do. Here's how I intend to approach sparring with somebody in competition and trying to win. These are the things that I'm strong at. These are the things that I'm weak at. These are the ways that I plan to handle those weaknesses. And here are my goals of what I hope to accomplish. And something that I really loved is he had also defined a win that was separate from having won the round, having won the match. He'd defined, if I can do this, this is a marked improvement over where I've been. If I can do this, this is my win. And then if I can do this and it happens to also lead me to winning the match, even better. But he defined, this is my personal win. And I love that. I think that is such a valuable tool that we need to help center ourselves, to keep us on track with the fact that we're trying to do better. But sometimes our goal is so far ahead that we need to recognize that there are places along the way that we can go and hit and consider that a win and continue to inflate our ability and recognize that we are making progress. Not just that far out future thing. Sometimes that goal is so far in the future that you can get defeated on the way because you don't realize that you are making progress and you are getting there. Instead, you just feel like you haven't gotten there. There's no measurement of the progress. And so you go, what am I even doing? And you give up. So having intermediary goals, things that will help you get there, and intermediary wins, these things to put wind back in the sail to help you determine that you have made progress. Measurement of your progress is such a big deal. So let's talk about caveats. When is motivation not the right choice? For example, when is competition not the right choice? This one stands out to me a lot because I'm not a specific, heavily involved competitor. It's never really been my track. I have different focuses for what I want out of my martial training. But then you have people who do want to compete. And I used to struggle with that, but now I encourage it. I'm excited about it. Let's do this thing. When you define your goal, you have to make sure that the thing that is your motivation also matches your goal. So if your goal is to get better at being able to defend yourself from a violent, non-consensual situation, then competition, while it will prepare you some, will not prepare you greatly and can even create bad habits if the competition rule set, the things you have to do to win, are counterproductive to what you would do to keep yourself safe. These are the kind of considerations that you want to make. What is my goal? Where am I going? How does this look? What would need to be true? And are any of the things that I'm using to push myself, especially these external pushes, is there any of the things that I'm using to push myself driving me away from my goal? Because if so, then you want to reevaluate. Are there other ways to approach it? If you're a competitor, is there a different type of competition that matches your goal set better? Is there certain different types of competitions go different ways, have different rule sets, have different things that they're trying to excel at? Which one matches what you're trying to do? You're just doing the local one that's super easy to get into, and just because it's convenient? Well, maybe pay attention and see, does this match, and is there a competition that matches better? And should I try to go that direction a whole way there? In your grading, does this grading, heaven forbid, Does this grading, this martial art, this thing that you're increasing your rank in, is it taking you the right place? And if it's not, is there a different martial art or a different school or a different teacher or just a conversation you can have to say, how do I get on track for my goals? And I recently had that myself. I've been doing some kickboxing, doing some judo, doing different things. And one of the situations that I had when I did the kickboxing is there were certain things that I talked to the coach and I said, hey, if we spar, can we maybe adjust how we do certain things? Because there are certain things that I'm not as concerned about, specifically like head height roundhouse kicks or head height kicks. As a person who's focused on self-defense, self-protection, that being a thing that I need to realistically gain the skill of managing is low. Could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen, but it's low percentage. So I said, if we spar, is there a chance that I can spar with you? You know what my goals are, and you can go light on the head kicks. I mean, throw them sometimes if you want, but I specifically want to gain head movement, and I want to handle punches because I think punches are way more likely to be something I need to deal with, and I think my head movement is weak. I want to improve that. And he was 100% game, and so that has been something we've been able to work together on, is this idea of how can my sparring match my goals while still staying within what you're doing? So I could go somewhere else, or in this case, I could stay here. So please don't always just run away. It's worth having a conversation to determine, just to make sure they're on the right page. You know, the direction I'm taking you and where you want to go. If those aren't in alignment, it doesn't mean that I'm not capable of taking you there. Maybe I just didn't realize that's where you wanted to go. Maybe I picked up on something else. I'm trying to take you this way, and you explain your situation, and I go, that's fine. Let's go this way. I can add different drills, or we can do different stuff, or I can modify things for you, however it is. Or maybe I just make a recommendation. Maybe you should do this, or maybe you should go see this teacher because they're better. Maybe it isn't me, but it's through conversation. If you just suddenly disappear and you're somewhere else, I won't necessarily say bridges are burned, but it does hurt people. Right, you are hurt when suddenly someone's just not coming around. And you're like, man, I really thought we were going somewhere good. I don't know what happened. They're just suddenly gone. I don't know what's going on. And then you find out they're training somewhere else, and you're like, what happened? Did I let you down? What happened? And so having that communication can go a long way to making sure that you're on track for your goals and really able to dial in the things that you want to accomplish with the people around you and have that support. And heaven forbid your instructor knows somebody who's a good choice to help you get where you're going if they are not the person. Last but not least, it's important to realize that your goals will change over time, and that is okay. It's something that you need to reassess and reevaluate from time to time. Don't just assume that because you had one goal one time, that that's your goal forever, because you might not even realize you're drifting from that goal, and then suddenly you're trying to push a square peg through too small of a round hole, and it's just not working. Know what your goals are, and if you feel them change, if you feel them become something different, if you feel that you're getting enjoyment or satisfaction a different direction, then maybe it's time to go that direction. And understand that your goals don't have to be the same from day one of your training to day end of your training. Instead, realize your goals can move. And sometimes you can have primary goals and secondary goals, and they can be complementary to each other, or they can even be contrasting. You just have to measure that and determine. At the end of the day, my advice there is, if you're going to have multiple goals, recognize what that primary goal is and make sure that it is the majority of your training. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're going to do what you do most. And so if your goal is self-protection and that's your primary focus, and then you spend all your time doing sport and you're building bad habits, and that's more of your training than it is the self-protection, that's what you're going to do when the time comes. Same goes the other way. If your goal is to be a high-level competitor, but your secondary goal is self-protection, and you're doing more self-protection than you are your competitive sport-based stuff, then when you get in the ring or the cage or on the mat or whatever it is, you might do things that don't match the rule set, and you might lose because you're not finding yourself in the right place because you're spending more time doing something that is counterproductive to your goal. So recognize that if you balance multiple goals, that you need to have priority to the thing that is your primary goal. That's what your body's going to do when the time comes. And recognize that a goal can be I just want to enjoy myself. I just want something to do. I just want a social activity. I want to go do this. It's a fun physical thing that I find interesting, more interesting than playing basketball or whatever. Better for me, more active than knitting. I don't know. I want to go do this. I want to go do some martial arts. Heaven forbid that's a thing that's getting you out around people. You're laughing and joking, having a great time, and you enjoy what you do, and that's all you want. You're not looking for rank. You're not looking to compete. You're not looking for a crazy skill set. You just want to be able to have something that brings enjoyment and satisfaction into your life. That is an okay goal. You might still need to communicate it so that the person is not pushing you too hard the wrong way. If your goal is not to do that, you really kind of want to keep it low key. You just want to be involved. That communication is good too, so that maybe you don't get pushed too hard when you're not trying to be pushed too hard. That might actually push you out the door. So just know what it is, know what your goals are. I guarantee there's somewhere with a group, with people who are there to support your goal and can help you go forward. Having the right motivation, understanding the right motivation, how to measure the progress you make. These are things that will exponentially increase your progress. This is how you become better.